how about you introduce us?
We are the Sisters of the Shire. I'm pretty sure both of us would either be elves or hobbits in the Tolkien universe. We both love just the Shire atmosphere for sure. That's where we would live. While we are not actual sisters, we are pretty much sisters. We are cousins on our mother's side.
Yeah.
But we spent every summer basically together, and we're just sisters. My name is Ashley, and
My name is Abby.
I basically wanted to start by how we were introduced to Tolkien's universe through our lives. So, I mean, we're about the same age. We were born in the 1990, and we're like a few months apart.
That sounds so far away.
It's so far away. So we were, I meant to look this up. I was going to see how old we were when the first Fellowship of the Ring came out.
I think I was like 11 or 10.
To the Google. So we started with the movies for sure. And we saw them like the day they came out. Oh, yep, 11. Nicely done. 2001.
Yes.
So we saw them like midnight screenings for every year they came out with a new one. I tried starting to read The Hobbit when I was about that age. My dad was like, you know, these movies have a prequel. And I started reading it, and I think I got to the barrels. That's about as far as I got. And I literally reread it like just this year. And I found the little like earmark of where I stopped.
Oh,
I was like, oh, memories from my 11-year-old.
cute.
And this is where I lost interest.
Yeah.
But since then, I've listened to Fellowship and Hobbit and Two Towers, Return of the King. I've listened to all of them. I will say listening and reading are very different.
Yes.
So I recently reread The Hobbit, like in actual paper form. And with the old school, my 11-year-old version. And with the new show coming out, I was like, I want to know who these people are. So I did the impossible, and I started reading the Silmarillion. And I was like, Abby, have you heard of this? She's like, no. And I was like, well, I'm going to tell you all about it.
I haven't read it.
Heard of it. Yes, you have heard of it.
So I was along the same with you of I was introduced to the movies first because they came out when I was in like 5th or 6th grade. And I come from, like, my dad is not American. English is not his first language, and he is not a fantasy sci-fi person or a reader. He can read, but he just does not, that is not his jam. And my mom, I think Harry Potter is like her like only real love of anything kind of fantasy.
I do have to pause you there for a second. We were like engrossed in the best like few years of Lord of the Rings coming out like every year and Harry Potter coming out in the same year.
Book.
Like we were just like blessed.
I know.
And
yeah.
I give to you the best fantasy, sci-fi, whatever you want to call
growing
it,
up
universe
years of cool fantasy and mythical things. And then my mom, her favorite genre is the saddest books you can read.
Sure.
Anything that has to do with like World War II or just anything sad. And so I wasn't really introduced to it like you were with your dad saying like, hey, this is, you know, a book. I was like, oh, what is this? And I kind of had to figure it out all on my own. My mom knew what Lord of the Rings was and The Hobbit was, but she never was like, oh, you should read this. She was like, yeah, it's a book. I'm like, oh.
It exists.
Yeah. And so I had to kind of do it all on my own. And I had you with me, like loving it as much as I did. But I didn't really get that like fiery passion of loving it to read it until I was in like high school. I read them in my senior year of high school, and then I read them again in college. And I feel like that is a better time to understand it.
For sure.
Like,
For sure.
I feel like people might say, oh, that's a kid's book. I'm like, no, it's not.
No, it's not.
Not actually a kid's book. The world is so big and it's hard for like a little 11, 10-year-old kid's mind to fully grasp it. So some people are like, oh yeah, I read it when I was in like 4th grade or 3rd grade. I'm like,
Nice.
cool. Did you understand it though?
Right. Which is so funny. Sorry for Tolkien though, because I think he meant The Hobbit to be a children's
it's
book.
considered a children's book.
It's not.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I'm not sure if you ever read the like Christmas thing that he did for his kids.
Yeah.
Like he knows how to write to that audience. He specifically like I really don't think it was meant for children.
Yeah. I think it was labeled that because it's considered like fantasy and not real, and adults only like sad books and books about finances and stuff like that. But anyway, so
grown-ups, ew.
Yeah. So I kind of first got introduced with the movies.
Right.
And I think my passion for also grew with my super huge crush for Elijah Wood. Oh my God.
I was going to mention that, but I thought I would let you. Huge crush on Elijah Wood. Yeah. I cannot look at Elijah Wood and not think of you.
I mean, he's pretty great. So anyway, I got into it later in life, and I don't feel like that's a bad thing. Like, no. That's totally fine if you, get into things and find things that you really love later, and you're not, like, I started this when I was like 3 years old. No.
I am jealous of the people that got to read it when it like first came out though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I feel like we have that, like the Harry Potter like world, we have that over the new generation. Like I had to wait in line. Like I had to read it in one night because my brother wanted to read it.
We bought 2 copies, so we didn't have to share.
Smart.
I think the reason why we wanted to start this podcast was kind of like a way to get people to understand and enjoy the like crazy, huge world of Tolkien, or people might say that we're saying it wrong. Tolkien, right?
Tolkien.
So
I'm reserving the right now to change how I say the words. I will, because when you read them, you say them in your head, and then like you hear how other people say them, you're like, ooh, that's not how I said it. So I reserve the right to go back and forth. I'm just saying that right now.
This is my interpretation. Anyway, to get to know and love all the amazing characters, because there's so many. I feel like I need to make a chart when we do this. And like all the subplots and the side quests and everything. And then also to help people kind of understand the crazy web of the character genealogy and the world building, because it's so huge.
So huge.
And but also like more selfishly to just have my beautiful cousin Ashley, do all the reading and give me a recap, because I ain't got time for that. I'm a mother of 3, okay?
Mother of 1, and I also was selfishly, my daughter's 4, and she got into this mode of, I'm going to go to sleep, but I need you in the room. But so I'm like sitting there like twiddling my thumbs, like trying not to just fall asleep myself. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read her a book. But it's not going to be a book that she wants to read. Oh, no. That would, keep her awake. I'm going to read a book that I want to read. And what better, lullaby material than the Silmarillion?
Thrones. Oh, I mean, Silmarillion.
Oh, yeah. Here's a lovely nighttime story.
No, I have heard of, is it Silmarillion? Is that what it is?
According to me, I'm sure Tolkien would be like so aggravated with people mispronouncing his stuff because he was like the master of languages. So I pronounce it Silmarillion.
All right.
Silmarillion.
I know what it is. Like, I know that it exists. I know that it's kind of the like precursor to everything.
Accurate.
But I have been so intimidated from everything that I've heard of like people saying like, oh, it's so hard to get through, or it's so confusing. And first of all, like I said before, I have 3 children. And my time is precious. And
You're that mom in when Bilbo's party. He's like, "Are these all kids yours?"
yes.
Very
Or the
protective.
sad lady from Beauty and the Beast. When she's like, I need
6 eggs. That's too expensive.
No, my kids are great. It's more of I have this really cool thing happening now where whenever I try to read, I fall asleep. So that's why when my wonderful cousin was like, we should start this podcast, and I am reading this book right now, and I want to kind of like explain it to you. And then while I'm explaining to you, other people can understand it and enjoy it. And I'm like, that sounds great, because I would really want to understand it, but I do not have time or the mental bandwidth to read it for myself. So I'm going to do the cheater way. Maybe someday in my future when I'm getting a full night's rest and I can
What is that?
and I can actually enjoy, I might finish it. I might start it.
And that's the other cool thing about this too, is it's kind of like watching the movie before you read a book. Like you'll kind of be able to follow along a bit better, like because the characters will be familiar.
Yes.
So that was another thing, is that, you know, even if you don't want to read the Silmarillion now, this might help you later. Or if you never want to read it and just want to like pretend that you know everything about Lord of the Rings, because I mean, you could if you follow my awesome tutorial here. And also, you know, when I'm reading it, I was wanting to take notes and like wanting to make charts and stuff.
I really want, like, you know, how they have in detective shows, how they have all the like pictures and they have like the yarn.
Yes.
Through everything.
Maybe I will do that and take a picture of it.
Your serial killer board.
Yes, I will have that in my, no, I should put that in my, so I have a Lord of the Rings themed bathroom. That would be an amazing place for it to go.
Your husband walks in like,
who's I
or if he's in there long enough, he's like, I learned so much.
That's true. Oh man, that would be like my one way of like secretly getting him to like learn the Lord of the Rings stuff.
Put it in places where he spends the most time. But yeah, so this podcast is to help people understand it in a fun way. We're not serious about it. Like I said, I haven't read it. I'm learning just as much as you guys. I'm learning along with you guys. I'm going to be the guinea pig of this way to learn. And Ashley's going to be our guide. She's going to be our Gandalf through.
I'll be the Gandalf. Well, slightly Radagast Gandalf. You know, I was listening to other podcasts out there, and what I didn't want to do is have a chapter by chapter discussion, because Abby doesn't have time to read it. Some people don't have time to read it. I wanted to be the storyteller and tell her what happens. Some people just like are the driest people ever when they're talking about this stuff, and it's so boring. Like we wanted to make it silly. We wanted to make it fun.
I feel like we need to relight the fire of a love for Lord of the Rings, because I feel like this generation is not.
It's too hard.
It's not as big as Harry Potter.
Sure.
Or Game of Thrones.
Well, maybe this new show will change that.
Maybe this can help people like get into it and then start fueling that fire when they start watching the show. And then I already love this, and I already know some things, and I'm not super lost, and I am excited. I want to know more. I love anything Tolkien related. It's just so beautiful, and I
am in awe of Tolkien. Like, he is by far the first person I want to meet, like, in heaven. Like, dude, shake hand, bow down, I'm not worthy. Like, you did the darn thing. And he was just such a cool guy.
It's just such an amazing feat of literature that I'm just, like, excited to learn more than I have now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So please guide us along the way.
You know, there's people out there that have read every single book, have read every single thing, and know everything about the Silmarillion. And they might tell this story differently than I'm telling it. I said from the beginning, I have read the Lord of the Rings books. I've read The Hobbit. And this is my first time reading the Silmarillion. I have not read the others offshoot books.
But we might get into those.
But I'm just saying, like, there's going to be people out there when I'm like maybe talking about things or summarizing something like, oh, you missed that part, or that's not what he meant because later in the books it does this. Yeah, I don't know that part yet.
Know that we're here because we love it.
Yes.
Not gatekeeping anything.
No.
We're not. We're spreading the love and knowledge of this vast world. We're not making it so people feel outcast of not knowing enough. That's the opposite of this podcast. We want anybody, doesn't matter if you've never read the book, you've only watched the movies, or you've never read the books and never watched the movies.
Weirdos.
You just know that the show's coming out, you don't know anything about it. This is a helpful, funny, simple guide podcast for the world, the magical, fantastical, beautiful world of Tolkien. That's what our goal is for this podcast. And we hope that it is easy to understand and it's
I'll do my best.
Yeah. It's like in Michael Scott say when he's like, explain it to me like I'm 10.
Okay, so that's actually another thing I wanted to do was like eventually one day I want to write a children's book of these stories and Abby's going to illustrate it because she's an amazing artist. I just have I'm the idea person and I'm like, do it, Abby, make it happen.
You're the director.
I'm the director and action. But yeah, I would love to have like children's versions of these.
That'd be pretty. I would say that I'm pretty smart when it comes to reading.
You're smart.
I am SMRT, but I feel like you have a great mind for putting all the pieces together, like quickly.
I'm very analytical. We're opposites, but the same. We are the different sides of the brain. Let's just say that. You are very creative and I'm very analytical, but somehow we work together.
Yes.
Very well.
Beautiful, beautiful friendship. So to introduce myself again, I'm Abby or Abigail. And
I have never called you Abigail.
Lots of people do. Now
what's funny is no one calls me Ash. I am Ashley, and that is Abby.
Yes. We are both moms.
Yeah.
We both have crazy schedules.
Yes.
And we both have a love of this literature that we are excited to share. I hope that this podcast reaches a lot of people who are excited about learning more about it. I'm excited to learn more about it. So
I'm excited to tell you. I have no one to like, no way with, because I was like reading it in a room with a baby sleeping and I'm like, no way. Did you know? Did you see that coming? I did not see it.
Lizzie, wake up.
Lizzie, wake up.
Well, we're excited to have you here. We said we're calling it The Sisters of the Shire. Yes, we know the Shire is not mentioned in this book that we were talking about first.
Correct.
But we love it so much. And also, it rolls off the tongue.
And I feel like Tolkien would approve.
Yes. Anyway, so can you close us out?
I can. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.